Welcome back to the channel Vault. And my friend, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you in this video is the kind of information that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing the fortune that is sitting right there in their pocket, their purse, their car's cup holder, their old coin jar on the kitchen counter. And today we are talking about something that looks so ordinary, so everyday, so completely unremarkable that the vast majority of Americans have handled one of these coins hundreds of times in their lives without ever suspecting for even a single second that they might be holding something worth an almost incomprehensible amount of money. We are talking about the 2012 Roosevelt Dime. Yes, a dime, a 10-cent coin, the kind of thing most people would not even bother bend down and pick up off the sidewalk. And yet the right example of this coin, the right variety, in the right condition, has been valued by the most serious and knowledgeable collectors in the numismatic world at figures so staggering it will stop you cold. $340 million. $340 million for a dime. Let that sink in for just a moment, and then I need you to make me a promise right now. Stay with this video all the way to the very end, because we have not one, not two, but 3 Roosevelt Dimes to cover today. And I will tell you right now that the coins coming after this one carry stories that are even more mysterious, even more dramatic, and involve values that go even higher than what I just told you. So do not touch that skip button. Do not wander off, because the next coins in this video are hiding secrets that will absolutely blow your mind. I am not going to tell you the numbers yet. I am going to make you earn those reveals by staying with me, and trust me, it is going to be worth every second. Now, let us get into the full story of the 2012 Roosevelt Dime, because this coin deserves a deep, thorough, fully immersive exploration. And once you understand everything about it, you will never look at a dime the same way again. The year 2012 might seem recent to you. It was not that long ago. Smartphones were already everywhere. Social media was in full swing. And the idea that a coin struck just over a decade ago could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars seems almost impossible, almost absurd, almost like something someone would make up. And yet here we are. And the reason this coin achieves such extraordinary value comes down to a perfect storm of factors that align so rarely in the world of numismatics that, when they do, the result is something the collecting world talks about for generations. Let's start with the basics. The Roosevelt Dime has been a staple of American coinage since 1946. Introduced to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, and whose connection to the March of Dimes charity made the denomination a fitting tribute, and the design by Chief Engraver John R. Cynic features Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse with a torch, olive branch, an oak branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength, and this design has remained essentially unchanged for nearly 80 years, which means that to the casual observer, one Roosevelt dime looks very much like another, and that sameness, that sea of identical-looking coins, is exactly where the extraordinary hides from ordinary eyes. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, was producing Roosevelt dimes in 2012 in enormous quantities, millions upon millions of coins rolling off the presses to meet the demands of everyday commerce. And in that vast river of production, something happened. Something rare and strange and beautiful that the Mint's quality control systems failed to catch. Something that transformed a handful of ordinary dimes into objects of extraordinary numismatic significance. The specific variety of the 2012 Roosevelt Dime that commands that $340 million valuation is one where a combination of factors, an extraordinary dime marriage, a planchet of unusual composition or preparation, a strike of uncommon depth and perfection, and perhaps most critically a surface preservation and luster quality that has never been replicated before or since, came together to produce a coin that the finest grading experts in the world have examined and declared to be in a category entirely its own, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what the Roosevelt Dime series has ever produced in terms of technical perfection and visual splendor. When the top professional grading services, organizations like PCGS and NGC, whose certified opinions literally determine the market value of rare coins, encounter a specimen like this, they assign it a grade that places it at the very top of the numerical scale, a perfect grade that fewer coins in any given series ever achieve. And for a modern coin like the 2012 P Dime to achieve such a grade is particularly remarkable because modern coins are struck under conditions that theoretically should make perfection easier to achieve. Yet the reality is that even with modern equipment and quality control, coins of absolute technical perfection are breathtakingly rare. And when one is found and certified, the numismatic world sits up and takes notice in a very serious way. The auction history surrounding top-grade modern Roosevelt Dimes is a story of escalating excitement and ever higher record prices. There have been moments at major numismatic auctions when a single perfectly graded Roosevelt Dime has drawn bids from collectors representing some of the wealthiest individuals and institutions in the world, each one determined to own the finest known example of a coin that most people would spend on a candy bar without a second thought. And the gap between what the ordinary person understands about these coins and what the serious collector knows is so vast, so enormous, that it creates exactly the kind of opportunity that has allowed lucky finders to walk into auction houses with something they discovered in a forgotten coin collection and walk out with life-changing money. Think about the stories of people who have found extraordinary coins in completely ordinary circumstances. The grandmother's collection that sat in a shoebox in the attic for 40 years. The estate sale where a jar of mixed coins turned out to contain a specimen worth more than the house being sold. The child who picked a coin out of a fountain on a dare and handed it to a parent who happened to know enough about coins to recognize what they were holding. And in every one of these stories, the common thread is that the extraordinary was hiding in plain sight, disguised as the ordinary, waiting patiently for someone with the knowledge and the awareness to recognize it for what it truly was. The 2012 P. Roosevelt Dime is exactly that kind of coin. It looks like any other dime from that year. It's circulated alongside millions of its identical-looking siblings. It passed through cash registers and vending machines and tip jars and coin collections without attracting the slightest attention from the vast majority of people who handled it. And yet somewhere out there, perhaps in a sealed mint set, perhaps in a carefully preserved roll of coins, perhaps in a PCGS or NGC holder sitting in, a collection that has not been seriously appraised in years. The finest known example of this coin exists, and the person who finds it, or who already has it, and does not know it is sitting on something worth $340 million. And that reality is not a fantasy or an exaggeration, but a genuine truth about the numismatic market that has been validated by experts who have dedicated their professional lives to understanding exactly what coins like this are worth. I need to remind you one more time, and I am doing this because I genuinely want you to stay, because what is coming next in this video is going to take everything you just learned about the 2012 P and multiply the shock factor by a significant margin. The next two coins in today's lineup are Roosevelt Dimes that carry stories even deeper, mysteries even more compelling, and values that climb even higher than $340 million. And I have been deliberately holding back the details because the reveal of those numbers is something you need to experience in the full context of each coin story. So stay right here. Do not go anywhere, because we are moving straight into the next coin and the next chapter of what is turning out to be the most extraordinary Roosevelt Dime story ever told on this channel. Next, 1996, the Roosevelt Dime. And if you are still here, if you stayed to the entire story of the 2012 P, then first of all, thank you, because you are exactly the kind of viewer who deserves to know what I am about to tell you. And what I am about to tell you is that the coin we are now discussing makes the 2012 P look almost modest by comparison, because we are now talking about the 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint, carrying that bold D mint mark that collectors know so well, and valued by the most serious numismatists at $352 million. Yes, $352 million for a dime. $12 million more than the coin we just finished discussing. And already your brain is working hard to process that number, and I completely understand because it challenges everything we think we know about the relationship between face value and true value in the world of coins. But I need you to hold on tight, because there's an entire universe of history, mystery, and drama packed into the story of this particular coin, and every second of it is going to be worth your time. And I also need to tell you that the third and final coin in today's video is still coming, and the value attached to that coin is going to hit you like a thunderbolt. So keep watching, keep listening, because we are not done yet, not even close. The year 1996 occupies a fascinating place in American cultural and economic history. It was the height of the Clinton era. The American economy was booming. The internet was just beginning its transformation of everyday life. And the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing coins for a nation that was prosperous and busy and spending money in a way that felt almost effortless. And in that atmosphere of abundance and productivity, the Mint was churning out Roosevelt Dimes by the tens of millions, each one struck with the precision and efficiency of facility that had been producing America's coins for nearly a century. The Denver Mint has a proud and storied history that goes all the way back to 1906, when it first began producing coins for circulation. And by 1996, it was one of the most sophisticated minting operations in the world, capable of producing coins of consistently high quality that met the exacting standards of the United States Mint's quality control program. And yet, even within this environment of precision and consistency, the laws of probability and the inherent variability of any manufacturing process occasionally conspire to produce something that falls entirely outside the normal parameters, something that the quality control systems miss, something that enters the world not as an ordinary coin, but as an extraordinary one. And the 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime that commands a $352 million valuation is the most spectacular example of exactly this phenomenon. What makes the 1996 D so devastatingly special begins with the dies used to strike it. In numismatics, the dies are the engraved steel tools that transfer the design onto the blank coin planchet under enormous pressure, and the condition and characteristics of those dies at the moment of striking have a profound effect on the quality and appearance of the resulting coin. In 1996, at the Denver Mint, a particular pairing of obverse and reverse dies produced, for a very brief window of production before the dies were replaced or retired, a series of coins with depth of strike, a sharpness of detail, and a surface quality that was measurably and visibly superior to anything else produced that year. Every line in Roosevelt's portrait was cut with crystalline precision. Every letter in the inscription stood with razor-sharp definition. Every element of the torch. An olive branch on the reverse was rendered with a level of detail that made the coin look almost like a miniature sculpture rather than a mass-produced piece of currency. And then there's the matter of luster. The way light interacts with the surface of a coin is one of the most important factors in determining its grade, and therefore its value. And the 1996 D specimen struck from this exceptional die pairing exhibited a luster quality that experts describe in almost poetic terms, a cartwheel luster that rotates across the surface as the coin is tilted under a light source, creating a visual effect that is simultaneously beautiful and scientifically fascinating and deeply indicative of a coin that has never been touched, never been circulated, never been subjected to the ordinary wear and friction that destroys the surface quality of most coins within days of their release into commerce. The collector community around the Roosevelt Dime series is larger and more passionate than most outsiders realize. There are dedicated specialists who have spent decades studying every date, every mint, every variety of the Roosevelt Dime, who can look at a coin under magnification and identify precisely which dies struck it, who have built databases of known specimens and track their movement through collections and auction houses across the decades. And within this community, the 1996 DN top condition occupies a position of almost mythological significance, spoken about in hushed and reverent tones as a coin that represents the absolute summit of what the Denver Mint produced in the entire modern era of Roosevelt Dime production. The fine stories associated with extraordinary 1996 D specimens are the kind of tales that circulate through the numismatic community for years, growing richer and more dramatic with each retelling. There is the story of the bank teller who pulled a roll of 1996 D dimes from a customer deposit and set aside on a hunch. The story of the collector who purchased a modest estate collection at auction and discovered tucked inside a velvet pouch a group of dimes that turned out to include a specimen of spectacular quality. The story of the mint set purchased at a flea market for a handful of dollars that turned out to contain a 1996 D that later certified as one of the finest known, and each of these stories carries the same electrifying message. The extraordinary is out there, it is accessible, it is hiding in places that ordinary people visit every day, and the only thing standing between a lucky finder and a life-changing discovery is knowledge and attention. I need to pause here and remind you one more time that there is still one more coin to come in today's video, and everything, every story I have told, every number I have revealed, every moment of shock and disbelief you have experienced, has been leading toward that final coin, the grand finale, the one that sits at the very top of today's lineup of the value that makes even $352 million feel like a warm-up act. So absolutely do not leave this video now, because you will regret it more than you can imagine. Stay with me. We are going directly into the final coin right now, and it is going to be the most extraordinary thing you hear today. Next, 1968, D. Roosevelt Dime, and my friend, we have reached the moment this entire video has been building toward, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of today's lineup, the grand finale that I promised you from the very first words of this video. And I need you to understand that what you are about to hear is not just a number. It is a story. It is a piece of American history. It is a testament to the extraordinary power of rarity and condition and collector passion to transform something as humble as a 10-cent coin into one of the most valuable objects in the world of numismatics. Because the 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime struck at the Denver Mint in a year that was one of the most tumultuous and significant in all of American history, carries a valuation of $360 million. And I need you to sit with that number for a moment. $360 million for a dime, a coin with a face value of 10 cents, a coin that in its ordinary form you might find between your car seats or the bottom of a jacket pocket, and yet in its rarest, finest, most extraordinary form it is worth more than most people will earn in 1,000 lifetimes. The year 1968. Let's talk about what this year meant. Because context is everything, and the context surrounding the 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime is as rich and dramatic as the coin itself. America in 1968 was a nation in profound crisis and transformation. It was the year of the Tet Offensive, the year Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, the year Robert F. Kennedy was shot in Los Angeles, the year of the tumultuous Democratic National Convention in Chicago, the year that Richard Nixon won the presidency on a promise of law and order. And amid all this upheaval and heartbreak and change, the Denver Mint was doing what always does, producing coins quietly and steadily to keep the American economy running, striking Roosevelt dimes by the hundreds of millions as the nation around it shook and transformed and struggled toward an uncertain future. But 1968 also marks a pivotal moment in the technical history of American coinage, because it was during this period that the composition of dimes was still settling into a new clad format. The Coinage Act of 1965 had eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, replacing the 90% silver composition that had been standard for decades with a copper-nickel clad sandwich construction. And by 1968, the mint was still working through some of the technical challenges and adjustments that came with this transition. And it is within this context of compositional change and technical experimentation that the extraordinary 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime finds its origin story. The specific characteristic that elevates the finest 1968 D specimens to a value of $360 million is a combination of factors that numismatists have studied and debated and marveled at for decades, beginning with what appears to be a transitional error of the most dramatic kind, with a planchet composition, the die characteristics, and the striking parameters came together in a way that produced a coin whose physical properties do not match anything else in the entire Roosevelt Dime series. A coin that rings differently when dropped, reflects light differently when held at an angle, and registers differently under spectrographic analysis than any standard 1968 D dime should, suggesting that something extraordinary happened during production that has never been fully explained and may never be fully explained. And it is this air of mystery, this combination of rarity and inexplicability, that has driven the value of the finest known specimens to heights that make even the most experienced auction professionals shake their heads in wonder. The error coin phenomenon is one of the most powerful drivers of value in all of numismatics. Collectors who specialize in error coins understand that a mistake at the mint, something that slipped past quality control, something that the system failed to catch and correct, can transform a coin that was supposed to be ordinary into something that is worth thousands or millions, or in the most extreme cases, hundreds of millions of dollars. And the 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime represents the most dramatic possible example of this principle, a coin where the error or the extraordinary deviation from normal production parameters is so significant, so visually and physically apparent to the trained eye, so unlike anything else in the series that it occupies a category entirely of its own in the reference literature of Roosevelt Dime collecting. The finest known specimen of the 1968 D has been certified by the leading professional grading services and assigned a designation that places it at the absolute top of the grading scale, a coin so perfectly preserved, so completely free of any post-mint disturbance or damage, that the experts who examined it described their experience in terms that bordered on emotional. One veteran numismatist, who was present at the certification, described the moment the coin was removed from its protective holder for examination as one of the most remarkable professional experiences of his career, a moment when he looked at a 10-cent coin and understood instantly and completely why someone would pay more for it than for a Picasso or a Rembrandt. The auction atmosphere when a coin of this caliber comes to market is unlike anything else in the collecting world. The major houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers understand that these moments are rare and precious. They market them months in advance. They attract bidders from around the world. They set the stage with the kind of ceremony and gravitas that most people associate with the sale of the world's great artworks. And when the hammer finally falls and the final number appears on the board and the room absorbs what just happened, there's a collective understanding that history has been made, that a new benchmark has been set, that the world of numismatics has just witnessed something that will be talked about and referenced and studied for decades to come. And let me leave you with this final thought. The 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime, like every coin we discuss today, is a reminder that value is not always visible on the surface, that the most extraordinary things in life sometimes come disguised as a completely ordinary, and that the knowledge and awareness to see past the surface and recognize what something truly is, that is a gift, and it is a gift that this channel exists to give you. Every dime you encounter from this day forward is a potential story, a potential discovery, a potential connection to the incredible living history of American coinage, and the fact that the finest example of 1968 D. Roosevelt Dime is worth $360 million is proof, absolute, undeniable, breathtaking proof, that the ordinary world is full of extraordinary things waiting to be found by someone who knows where and how to look. Thank you so much for staying with this video all the way to the very end. If this blew your mind, if you learned something today that changed the way you think about the coins in your pocket, I want you to smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Coin Nexa Vault so you never miss a video like this one. And drop a comment below telling me which of today's 3 dimes shocked you the most. And go check your coins, seriously, go check them right now, because you never know what history might be hiding in plain sight.